everybody wanted to feel bad for me, and rightfully so, right? I'm a 15-year-old kid, but when people felt bad for me, I got angry. I'm like, what makes you think like I'm not going to recuperate from this? What makes you think my life is over from this? Why you treat me that way? And something that like it made me angry. Like it really did. It was like I didn't say anything to anybody because I was more on the quiet side, but it was like that made me angry that people treat me like that. But that inspired me to like, I'm going to show you. I'm like, there's no way. But the society put it on me that I was supposed to like, my life is over. This poor kid, he's not going to end up anywhere in life anymore. And he has ADHD and, he's just really screwed at this point. Right. It's like, there's no hope for this dude.
What's up, guys? Today I've got Domenic with me. He's one of the PCCs over at Marek Health. And Dominic's somebody who I developed a relationship with pretty quickly on. I usually in my life have tried to cling to guys who are older than me, who have a lot of the attributes and characteristics that I look to hopefully embody myself as a man. And Dom just stood out to me right out the gate. We meet before we have patient exams together, and a few times when patients no show, I love that actually. I lose money, but I get to talk to Dom. So I learn a lot in experience and knowledge from Dom. So I wanted to definitely bring him on and hopefully have him as a reoccurring guest here. But anyways, it's a brief introduction to Domenic. Just want to introduce you guys all. And how's it going, man?
Thank you, Dr. Hosh, because it's funny. I feel the same way about you, man. I get inspired by you. You encourage me, and I'm kind of humbled by that comment. So I appreciate it. So yeah, and I always enjoy those times that people don't show up.
I know. It's
in some ways, like I get so much to tell you. Yeah, I get so much to talk to you about, man.
Exactly. That's why we just need to get you on more so we can do this and then actually still make some money too. Because every time I'm like, shit, we should have just called that patient and I got them here. But I really enjoyed getting to talk to Dom. So
we've had how many good podcasts we probably talked about in those half hours, just
honestly. Yeah, you talking is, I think, the impetus of the Atlas hours, because you were like, dude, we could have recorded that like time that we talked. That should have been a podcast. And then eventually we just jumped on it.
Yeah. And so it's such an honor and a pleasure to be able to work with so many great people, like patients that come to Marek, and you get so many different circumstances, but a lot of times there's similarities between people. And, but there's so much content there because, when you see things reoccur and people struggling with the same things over and over and over again, and it's like, those are really good podcasts for people to hear because, some of the simple solutions within that people are really struggling with on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of people struggle with this stuff continuously and they don't really know who to turn to. And a lot of people, I can't tell you how many like patients have come along and they said, it took me months to get to this point. I've been thinking about this a long time. It took me a long time to get here. So I can't imagine how many people have been entertaining this and they have been holding in, the things that they're concerned about, all their, their fears, or, and a lot of guys don't like talking about their issues.
Yeah.
Guys don't like talking about their problems. We get a lot of female and male patients, but men and women, they don't like to talk about the things that are personal to them. No. Not many guys are just like, hey guys, you don't sit there and have a beer with your buddies. So how's your libido?
Exactly.
You don't really get to talk about that stuff. You want to kind of just always think that everything's great when you're amongst your buddies and everything's going good. But,
and then I feel like we've seen a trend too, where like a lot of guys have normal issues that all of us have had. But I think for some reason, this generation kind of feels like they're unique, that like they should never have a bad day. I feel like a lot of our talks have been like that. Like, we'll see a guy with perfect labs and then we're reading his symptomatology. Why is he coming in? And it's stuff like, I'm not motivated to go to the gym. I'm tired. And we're like, shit, man, me too. And, you have a history in the fitness industry and you've kind of seen it all. And so I'm always picking your brain as to like, what are things that you've done to, get past that? To, motivation, I always tell people, is fleeting. I'm not motivated. I haven't been motivated to work out in probably 3 years or more. I'll be motivated for a day. I get a cool new pair of shoes and I'm like, yeah, sick. I feel good. Let's go work out in these. And then the next day they're old shoes and I'm not motivated anymore, So yeah, we talk a lot about that. And I feel like that is a new thing with this generation, is like everybody expects every day to feel great. And they're like, everything should just be super easy. And we were just talking about, like people's attitudes towards things. Like people just expect things to happen for them with minimal work. And, I don't know.
There was an old song my mom used to sing this song to me. Like Mama used to say that, well, Mama would say there's gonna be days like these, and it's like, it always sticks in my head. Is like every time, I mean, you can wake up any day with a different feeling. I mean, your feelings are going to change on a moment to moment basis. You don't know what you're going to dream about. I've had dreams of my wife doing things that I would never imagine she'd ever want to do. And I wake up and not in a good mood.
I had that today.
This morning, up at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, man, is she still there? Like, oh.
Exactly. This morning, Josh is coming in right now. But this morning I dreamt that Victoria was leaving me. I was like, it was awful. I always wake up with the worst feeling. What's up, Josh?
What's up, fellas?
What's going on, man?
Sorry I'm late.
We were just talking about feelings and emotions that people go through on a day-to-day basis.
We were talking about having dreams, and Dom said he's had dreams of his wife doing terrible things. And I said I had one this morning. I woke up. Well, we woke up early. We had breakfast and stuff, and we wanted to go to the gym a little bit later than normal. So let's just go back to sleep, which is the beauty of weekends. That's what we do sometimes. And when I did, though, I had this dream that she was like, it was so weird. Dreams never make sense. But I was like looking at our dresser, and it was all like fucked up. And I was like, oh, damn, the dresser's all fucked up. And she's like, yeah, that what happened when I tried to move it or something like that. And I'm like, why are you trying to move it? And she's like, I'm leaving. And I'm like, wait, what? And I woke up to that. Like, she had to come over and hug me. She's like, I'm sorry. But dreams will mess you up, man. I'll have like a dream that she cheats or something all day long. I feel like it's in me. I have to tell myself not to.
Yeah, it's like bizarre. On a day-to-day basis, you can wake up with different feelings, where you go through different feelings, or you can be going on your way to work or on the way to the gym. Someone cuts you off or just gives you the finger for no reason at all. You were just changing the station on the radio. You might have did something silly, and they give you the finger, start melting off to you, and all of a sudden it triggers a feeling in you. But no matter what happens on a day-to-day basis, you're still going to do what you have to do on a day-to-day basis. You got to work out every day. You got to do all this stuff. It's like, and people, like you're saying, like the people in this generation, they think on a day-to-day they're supposed to feel like they want to do something every day, and that's just not the case. No one feels like doing. I guarantee, very seldom you feel like doing stuff. No, today I went to the gym and I didn't feel like getting up. I dragged up today, and I didn't feel like jumping in that cold shower, man. I didn't feel like it, and I was like, okay, don't go in there, and I just walked right in. Do that cold shower, and because I didn't want to be in there, I stayed in there longer. Like, shut up, and it's like, okay, stay in there. And then I ended up going to the gym, and I didn't want to go work out, so I just warmed up for a half hour, did a bunch of things, and I ended up having a great workout.
Exactly.
And then when you leave, you feel amazing. And that's the thing, is like people like us, or people that work out and do this stuff regularly, you learn it's not, you don't do it because you want to do it. You do it because you need to do it. And then you see the result of it long term. Yep. And for me, I'm getting to a point in my life where I'm like, wow, okay, cool. That was a good decision I made a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We had this discussion yesterday, Josh and I, that like, it's the years. I was telling Josh that I was listening to a bodybuilder talk, and he said, it was like profound to me. I was like, this is perfect. I wish everybody could hear this. Cause he said, it's not any special drug. It's not any special workout, no special food. What it is that I had one day where I ate perfectly. I trained perfectly. I recovered perfectly. I supplemented perfectly. And then I repeated that day for thousands of days in a row. And that's where I got how I am, and I'm like, that's exactly right. Like, it's nothing one thing special. You can have a pretty subpar routine. You can have a subpar diet, but if you just have consistency and you continue to do things, day after day after day, you chip away, eventually you end up having great success.
And this is another thing too, is like, you think of the guy that maybe don't work out, or maybe let himself down many times, was going to go to the gym on Monday, and then come Wednesday, he's going to wait till next Monday. And then, Wednesday's not a good day to start. So they're going to wait till next Monday, and it's always next Monday, but they never actually get around to doing it. So they let themselves down time and time again, but they don't understand that there's always tomorrow. You have to get up and do it again, and you can turn that around at some point or another. And people don't have the confidence. They can say, hey, that's good for you, Adam, man. You're so disciplined to do this stuff. That's the type of person you are. But I was born this way. My dad's this way. My mom's this way. I'm genetically prone to be this way. And, and they think that there's something wrong with them, but not knowing that they too can get up, do it. They can fall on their face. They can have a sub perfect day, and strive for tomorrow to be a better day and just better than they were yesterday. And it's like, if you improve 1% per day, I mean, what does that look like over a course of a year?
Yeah.
You know, it's like just 1% better. I'm going to be better than I was, yesterday. And you see those stories. I mean, you see a little guy that was, 400 pounds, and, you'll see a TikTok video of a time, and all of a sudden he's like, and it's like, and those are so inspiring, and people that have like more disadvantage, I think those stories are so much more encouraging and inspiring than anything else, because it really throws hope out there. And that's one thing, especially today, man. I think that's one of the things that we're losing as a society is we're losing hope, we're losing faith, we're losing just basic principles and fundamentals that, America was built on, or just, and it's like, those stories, those inspiring stories, that they're important, man. So.
And I think another good thing on what you're saying too, Dom, is for people just to realize that progress isn't always linear, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be that, hey, for the next 5 years, if I do follow this routine, it's just I'm continuing to climb that ladder. You may have to take 5 steps down that ladder to progress to whatever that next level is. And I think that's something else that is hard for people to grasp with nowadays, is that there are going to be times that I just have to deal with setbacks and know that that's part of how I'm actually going to progress. I got to move backwards to go forwards, because we all just want the instant gratification of what I'm doing is giving me that positive feedback. And obviously the three of us know that's just not how it works long term.
Yeah, there was a situation I mean, this is probably one of the best decisions I made on early on. Is it was kind of stemmed from a painful place, so to speak. My sister was dating a guy that wasn't, probably the best guy, and I heard he hit her. It turned out that I don't think he did, but I was scared of this kid. He was like 3 or 4 years older than me. I was scared of him. He was known to be a tough kid in the neighborhood. And I was like, well, I have to do something about it, man. That's my sister. So I went, and I think I was 160 pounds at the time. And I went and I fought this kid. I see him and I fought him, and it turned out all right. But what happened was I gassed out. I gassed out really fast. I did good because he gassed out too. So it kind of neutralized the situation, and it got all taken care of, but really stuck in my head. Like, I don't ever want to be like that. I don't ever want to have to, like, this was something I felt like I was morally responsible for. And number one, I was terrified, in which, I overcame something from that, but then not being prepared for a situation like that, that really sat on me really hard. And I went to the gym, and I remember signing up to the gym, and I worked out before. I was always an athlete. I, work out here and there, go to the gym at school and bench with your friends and see how much you could throw on the bar, and, probably doing everything wrong, but never consistently. But I remember joining the gym at 20 years old. I was 160, 165 pounds. And I said, okay, and I was 20. I said, by 25, I want to be 185. I was already lean, so I didn't even think of body fat because I was already skinny, So it was, but I was like, I want to be 185 pounds. I want to put on, 20 pounds, 25 pounds of muscle by 25. And you know something? By allowing myself that I was able to fall, get up, but I stayed consistent. Not every day was perfect.
Yeah.
Not every time I knew what I was doing. Not every time I understood the exercises, or didn't make a fool of myself at the gym, or trip over a weight in the gym in front of everybody, make it a little, or hit, just all the stupid things that go along. But I had this idea that this is where I want to be at 25. Because if I was 25 years old, I mean, at that weight, 5'9", that would be where I want to be. And it allowed me kind of a little grace as far as the learning. And I ended up getting there 23 years old. And it just really taught me something. But more what I learned, when a lot of people work out for aesthetic reasons at first, because they want to look good, right? They want to feel good. But you and I both, all of us know that what you learn about yourself by working out it's priceless. Oh, yeah. It goes so far beyond what you look like.
I literally just said this yesterday to Josh. I was saying that I was in yesterday doing a workout with like a superset lateral raise. And I was thinking scientifically, this superset is stupid as hell. And it's not going to increase any more hypertrophy than just a normal, max set of 10. Like I'm sitting here doing 30 reps because it burned like a motherfucker, and I was having to dig deep. And I was thinking like what I'm gaining here has nothing to do with the muscles. It comes with the mental toughness. Like, your cold shower. I've been seeing so many like haters online, like PhDs and science evidence-based, like talking shit about Huberman because the research doesn't really say that cold baths are as profound as he says they are. But what's profound as fuck that's way outside of the literature is putting yourself into an uncomfortable situation, like you did this morning. You didn't want to do that. And you were in a benign controlled environment to where you could expose yourself to something uncomfortable and benefit from that. That way, that when you're in that situation in life where shit gets bad, you're going to be able to tolerate it so much better because you've trained for that, in my opinion. So that it's like, who cares about the science of like brown fat and thermogenesis and all of that? No, it's like the mental toughness that you build from that is crazy. And that's what I felt about like the lift, I'm like, this isn't going to build my delts any more than just doing a straight set of 9 or 10 or whatever. But I am sitting here wanting to quit at like rep 10. I still got 20 more to go, and every single one is going to hurt. And that's going to make me a stronger human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because I've been doing the cold showers for about 2 years now, and I didn't do it based off science. I did it based off of FU to myself. Because what I want to get up early in the morning. I do get up early in the morning, but I want to read before I go to the gym. And man, I can't read without falling asleep. Like I'm just like, wow, like you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, okay, like I'm going to really take control of this. And you start reading, and like, I just get comfortable on the couch. That's all I do. So that was kind of my reason for a cold shower. And it's just like, get up, take a cold shower. And I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. And I almost made a YouTube video about all of what I've gained off of cold showers. And I was going to be like, that's it. I just get up and take a cold shower. I don't know. Like, I don't notice that I got like less body fat, or I'm not the scientific reasons behind it, but I really challenge myself to get up, and it wakes me up in the morning. And it's got to a point where if I don't take a cold shower in the morning, I feel like I'm weak. I wussed out for the day,
Yeah.
and it like the psychological aspect, like you said, that mental toughness to put myself in that situation at the first moment of the day, 3-4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, to me, one of the best decisions I've ever made to start taking on that path.
Yeah.
And I've also learned in jiu-jitsu, a friend of mine, doing jiu-jitsu, it's like, you have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Like when someone's smothering you, or just like you get some guy that, for me, like I had a guy 270 pounds on me smothering me, and I'm like, dude, this is horrible. And he's a white belt, so it's even dangerous. And it's like this big muscle bound 270 pound white belt, like, oh, right. And it's just, but learning to relax where it's uncomfortable, and knowing that this will pass as well. Mm-hmm. This moment's going to pass. He's going to move. He's going to make a mistake, and then I'm going to escape. It's like, it's all just learning to be comfortable. And like
exactly,
reps, man, that's huge. When you're doing 30 reps and you're burning at 10 already, you're like, oh gosh.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what like CrossFit taught me. When I did CrossFit, it's like the first 2 minutes in, you're already dead. And then you're like, this is a 15-minute workout. I've got 13 more of those terrible minutes that I just did. Then you just have to be like, all right, here we go. Like, I'm going to now, like they say, embrace the suck. You're literally about to just hang out in it. Like, this hurts. Let's hang out in it for a little bit, but it makes every other aspect of life so much better. And so I don't give a shit if there's not randomized controlled trials saying that it's better in some way. If we can't figure out the neural pathway, I know that it's made me a stronger human being, like, you talked about your cold shower, you've exposed yourself to stress, you know how to deal with it. What if all hell breaks out, and there's some chaotic situation in life? I feel like you're probably going to be able to handle that better because you have develop neural pathways to deal with your stress, compartmentalize things, know that, you can stay calm and collective in a certain situation, I mean, that's why we train our military in that way. We make them highly uncomfortable. Like Navy SEALs, they get wet and sandy. They have to go get in the water and then roll around on the sand. There's no increased like tactical benefit to get wet and sandy other than it makes you highly uncomfortable. And if you're ever on a battlefield and you're wet and sandy, you're just going to chill. You're not going to be a little bitch about it. You're going to excel. You're going to beat the enemy.
Yeah. It's funny you say that too, because I have one of my best friends. He's a Navy SEAL, and about 15 years ago, he went homeless in LA. This kid is just, he's shredded, but you know, he never let anybody know he's homeless. He just had everything go wrong that could go wrong, and he couldn't recuperate for a couple of years. He was homeless, and he was sleeping in a plane hangar, and he had access to a hose for a shower every day. He was a personal trainer. He was training in a high-end, you know, complex where with all celebrities and everything. He was the trainer, and he looks diesel, like you wouldn't believe this guy, how great a shape he's in. But no one ever knew he was homeless. And every day he would take a shower, and he would tell me he's taking a shower in the hangar with the hose. And I remember thinking at that time, this is like before cold showers, before cold plunges that I ever heard of, you know, I'm like, this guy is just taking a shower with cold water every day. And he never complained about the cold water, but it was something in my head. I'm like, how's he doing that? Like, how do you take a cold shower every day? Like,
awful.
And for him, like, and he's a Navy SEAL. I mean, he's a former SEAL, and his mentality, like, it's just a non-break, non-negotiable mentality in the circumstances he went through. No one knew he was going through it. He never missed a workout. He never missed taking care of himself. He never missed a meal. He never missed anything. He did what he had to do, and he got through it. And it was, for me, just, you know, I did lose contact a little time when he was in there, but just seeing how he come on the other side was incredible. You know, he came out a better martial artist than he went. And that's where he was going for his escape. He just, you know, so.
Do you do any cold showers, Josh?
I should do more now that I'm listening to both you guys.
I
like
really.
that story a lot, though, Dom, just especially the humility to not let other people know that you're going through something like that. Because right nowadays, a lot of people, like, they like to hang their hats on if they have something to kind of fall back on. Oh, I've got this working against me. But it takes a pretty special person to lean into that, basically, and be like, I don't even want anybody to know this about me, because it's not a valid excuse, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think with, you know, culturally, I think we're kind of split over people that want, you know, to someone to feel sorry for them. And others that want to kind of stand up, and the people that are trying to stand up and show that you got to kind of just, you know, bite down and suck it up and make the best out of your circumstances, whatever those circumstances are. Those people are kind of getting shut down and silenced, and they just promote the feel sorry for your attitude. And it's just culture. It's not good, man. And you know, but that's kind of coming, you know, there's just this split with people, you know, and it's like, man, we have to, especially men, you know, women too, but men, we have to be men. You know, I feel like I was on the, you know, on the birth of the metrosexual kind of, you know, let's be more feminine, like understand women more. I was like leading part of that group, leading it in, shaving my chest, and I was, you know, it's like, and you learn later on, it's like, man, you know, it's just men be men and women be women. We are different. We need each other, you know.
We can do a combo of the two, right? I can still have a shaved chest and be a man at the same time.
Well, it's funny, like
oh,
nice. Josh and I were talking about this over the last weekend. We were all together, like, and I was just talking about this with Victoria this morning. Things have changed so much. Like, I used to consider myself to be very liberal. Shit has gotten so crazy. I feel like I've stayed the same. And now what I was once liberal is now seen as conservative. And the same way with, like, I was talking to her about with the evidence-based community, like, I haven't changed my love in science and the fact that I need things to be proven by science before I really dive into them. But like, the evidence-based community is getting ridiculous too, just like the liberals and conservatives, to where, like, now I feel like I'm some naturopathic hippie, like woo-woo guy, just because I say things like cold showers might be beneficial. And they're like, no, you know, if there's no randomized control trial on this, and they fucking spew off, you know, a bunch of science. And like, you know, it just, people are so crazy with everything, man.
It is bizarre. It's like you said, I grew up in Massachusetts, in Boston, like liberal capital, you know, and I lived in LA, and it's like, you know, I was, you know, I'm definitely more conservative, but maybe lean more conservative, but always had liberal people around me. But it's not, it's just kind of, we were still all on one accord. We just might have had a little different way to get to where we all wanted to go. But now it's like just total polar opposites. If you stayed the same, if you're the same for the last 15 years, you're definitely conservative.
Yeah,
no matter where you were. No matter where you were.
100%.
You could have been so far on the left 15 years ago. If you just stayed there, you're conservative now.
That's what I think happened to me, because I was like, whoa, all of a sudden, like, holy shit. Like, things like, I don't know, just funny jokes are now completely, you know, you're insane, crazy, or not communist, but Nazi Republican if you find some things funny, you know. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy.
Like, all right.
Yeah, I woke up one day and I guess I'm a staunch Republican because, because I'm a San Francisco liberal, or used to be,
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
I don't know, but
crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. And then the whole like putting a title on things, something I've been thinking about too. Like I listened to, I think it was Chris Williamson. I think he's got a podcast. Love to have him on one day. It's great. He was talking. It was like, you can be sad and not have depression. You can have experienced trauma and not have post-traumatic, PTSD. Like so many people put a freaking label on everything. Like you have a bad day and you're like, I'm depressed. And then that becomes your title. And this goes back to what I wanted to comment on earlier, Don, when you were talking about the person who says, I'm not that individual. I'm not like you, Adam. I don't go to the gym. I got, blah, blah, blah. What you title yourself as has such a profound effect. And that's, I know, Josh, have you read, was it Atomic Habits, or have you, Dom?
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with it. I haven't read it
Man,
yet.
yeah, Atomic Habits, amazing. You mentioned two things from there that he talks about, but the biggest one that I like is that to develop a habit, you need to change your identity. And so he talked about, if you're that person who says, I'm fat, I'm out of shape, I'll never be the person who works out. Literally, all you need to do is tell yourself, I'm fit, I work out, I go to the gym. Change your identity. That's what I did. I mean, the day that I started working out, I changed everything. I got a whole new wardrobe. I cut my hair. I fit I bought a gallon jug. I wasn't big enough to be walking around with a gallon jug and a cutoff, but I put them on. I'm like, I'm this person now. I go to the gym now. I've got, back in, I don't know, it was early 2000s, the Puma shoes were cool. Like I bought those, I was this person now. And I was like, I'm going to have that. So I think that's a huge part, is develop that identity, but it can work on the negative too. If you're somebody who says, I'm depressed, like you become depressed, I've got PTSD, instead of just working through it. And I don't mean to downplay people who have actual clinical issues, which a lot do, but these days we're so quick to give everybody a goddamn diagnosis. You don't like school when you're in first grade and all of a sudden you have ADHD and you're medicated for the rest of your life. That's every single kid. All three of us would have been medicated going through, because literally, if you would rather play outside than listen to the teacher, which is 100% of kids in first grade, you now are diagnosed with ADHD and put on drugs. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough to be part of that generation where if you had ADD or ADHD, you were just dumb.
Yeah. Or you were just told to shut up.
Yeah,
and you were
like, pay attention.
He doesn't want to pay attention in class. He's always daydreaming,
100%. If I have my old report cards, every single one will say likes to, can't stay on task, likes to talk to others. And that was just like, you would get in trouble when you got home. Why are you talking to Jimmy so much? Sorry, I won't do it.
Yeah. Being a kid, basically.
Exactly. I was just a kid. Like you just talk, and that's what kids do. And so whenever I hear like, oh, my kid's got ADHD, he's not doing well in class, he's talking too much, he's having outbursts, I'm like, so was every other kid. It's crazy.
You said a couple of important things that I feel like, sculpt my life for sure. My mom died when I was 15 years old. And one of the things that made me most upset about that, I mean, she didn't die suddenly. We knew she was going to die when she died. She died of cancer. And yeah, it's a traumatic situation. We went through a lot of like family challenges at the time. But when everybody wanted to feel bad for me, and rightfully so, right? I'm a 15-year-old kid, but when people felt bad for me, I got angry. I'm like, what makes you think like I'm not going to recuperate from this? What makes you think my life is over from this? Why you treat me that way? And something like it made me angry. Like it really did. It was like I didn't say anything to anybody because I was more on the quiet side, but it was like that made me angry that people treat me like that. But that inspired me to like, I'm going to show you. I'm like, there's no way. But the society put it on me that I was supposed to, like, my life is over. This poor kid, he's not going to end up anywhere in life anymore. And he has ADHD and, he's just really screwed at this point. Right. It's like, there's no hope for this dude, and that's the way people, but they did it kind of, I'm sure, out of the kindness of their heart. But in my siblings, I think some of them might have kind of adopted that, like, feel sorry for me attitude.
Yeah.
And the differences of our lives and where we became is totally different. Like I always identified myself as a professional athlete. I just never went pro. So, I mean, prove me wrong. I don't know. I just didn't want to go pro, it's like, but it's funny. I really identified to myself. I've identified myself like that. I feel like I would always say, if I went the distance, if I applied myself, I could have been a professional athlete. Now, there's no way of telling yes or no with that. But in my mind, it had always rang true, and it always made me athletic my whole life. And I kind of lived up to that expectation I had for myself, because I always identified that as myself. Don't feel sorry for me. And I'm a professional athlete. And I'm actually Clark Kent. No one knows. It's like, but it's true. It's like the way you think, man. The way you think really like it becomes your outcome. And if you
100%.
think depressive thoughts, you're gonna end up, not feeling too hot.
Do I think that's a pretty awesome point too, Dom, of my dad went through something very similar to you. He lost his dad when he was 16, and he's kind of voiced very similar things to me. They used to frustrate him like that. Then when people kind of almost pitied him in a way.
Yeah.
And I wonder, that kind of brings up the point that like when people go through really traumatic situations like that, maybe like the best way to help someone cope is obviously some empathy for what they're going through, but also some tough love at the same time, of like maybe use this as fuel in some way, not to sound morbid about it, but maybe just totally feeling sorry for someone actually does them more injustice than it does, a positive for them.
I think it's very hard, and it's a very gray area, because I've been like that to my siblings. And I've been like that because of my situation. I've treated people that way. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me, so I don't feel sorry for them. I encourage them. I'm like, let's get up, let's do it. Yeah. Let's like, all right, this is going to make you stronger. Let's make meaning out of this that empowers you. Let's do something with this, and sometimes people get offended by that.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, you just don't understand. You've never been through what I've been through, and it's like, and they really get mad at you in a way, like, you you don't have any compassion. It's like, no, I do. I actually love you. That's why I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why I want you to be able to
don't
work
really
through
understand, it's like, but, I don't know. It's just weird how people interpret things,
It is.
You hear what you want to hear, see what
and
you want to see.
I went through a similar thing used Dom. Like my mom didn't die, but she like abandoned me when I was 8. She just disappeared out of my life. And so it was similar, but I felt like I kind of got over it. I'm like, she's gone. At first I was sad and I was gone, but it fucking pissed me off that anything that I did in my life, my dad and his wife, which became like my mom, it was always, this is because your mom left. I'm like, fuck you. No, I'm just acting out because I'm acting out. Like, it has nothing to do with that. Quit telling me that it has anything to do with that, because it doesn't. Like I was so annoyed with that all the time. I'm like, I'm over that personally. Like if it did have any effect in my life, it was other things. Like I definitely had some like insecurity around girls. I would always feel like they were going to leave me. I feel like that kind of made it play. But like when I was a kid, like everybody would always be like, oh, it's because your mom left. I'm like, no, it's not. I was so annoyed. I was always so mad that people tried to give me that crutch.
But no, that's exactly why you were probably able to become a doctor, because when you realized you can go in a different direction, you were like, no, I'm responsible enough to take a different direction. If you identified yourself as being such a way because your mom left, you would just be immobilized. You'd be like, no, I can't, because my mom left me. I can't do that, because it's like you were like, and the same thing would happen to me. All the stupid decisions I made, I realized like I made a stupid decision. Like that was all me. It had nothing to do with my mom dying. Like
Right.
I had a choice there,
Yeah.
And and that's another thing too, taking responsibility of your own actions. You have to be able to own your stuff. Jocko Willix, whatever his name is there, he talks about that, just ownership. You have to own your decisions. When you do that, you can get up and go work out in the morning. You can go out and take care of yourself. You can do all that stuff. And it's like, we see what we see here, like, working at Merrick, people that kind of, we see a lot of incredibly successful people. Like I see a lot of guys that are like just driven, and they inspire me, and they have so much going on in their life, and they just get to a point where they're like in their 40s, and they just can't do the output anymore. They're like, man, I'm slowing down, man. I can't slow down yet. I'm just getting going, and they have that mentality, and you do the blood work and stuff. And then, you see that those guys sometimes they'll thrive off of like testosterone. They'll thrive off the treatment, and they'll just continue to become better. But then there's always, once in a while, you see a guy that's just, can't get out of the house, can't work out, overweight, doesn't want to do anything, and thinks he has low testosterone. And he's like, I think testosterone is going to get me to work out. I'm like, no, man, testosterone is going to be your life on steroids. It's not, it's just going to be, be that.
The only thing we're going to do is add you having to inject. And then, if you continue, you're just going to be injecting. That's the only thing we're adding in. And then you're just going to continue to sit on your ass and you're going to continue to eat the same food. I don't know why people don't realize that if you just inject yourself with that, nothing magical happens whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever at all. Nothing will change. The only thing that's going to change is that you're now poking yourself with a needle. And I mean, I have literally been working out and eating better than 99% of the population, but I'd hit my cap and then I added in more drugs. But because I didn't change my work ethic, I didn't change my protocol, and I didn't add more calories in and things, and my body didn't change. So, I know that you can abuse drugs and not change anything. It's just an aside. I hate that mentality that all I need is testosterone to get going. No, you need to get going and everything first. And then testosterone can be an awesome tool to help you to continue that. But unless you learn that first, and unless you can do it without it, it's probably going to be pretty tough to, really make any progress with this drug.
Yeah. Well, and to Dom's point, those guys that you're talking about, guys and girls both, that are already highly successful and really just basically needing that replenishment to keep them going, that fire's already been burning for years. You're basically just adding back a little fuel to it. Whereas the people that are looking for that, they haven't even built the foundation or laid down the wood to even start that fire yet. And they're trying to go from zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can help.
Yeah.
Those people,
go ahead.
Those people, you get so excited to help them out.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah. And that's when you love what you're doing. You're like, oh man, I know this is going to be a game changer for you.
Right. Yeah. It can also help though, too. It can be. And sometimes my hope always, and I know Dom, you've heard me say it a million times, this is the catalyst that starts everything. That the fact that you are going to be injecting and you've put all this money into lab work and you've taken the time to meet with Dom and meet with myself and get the health coaching. I hope that this is all the catalyst that starts it. And that's my hope always, is that the testosterone can help to fuel the behavior. But if you are coming into it thinking that it's just the testosterone that's 100% going to change everything, you're very mistaken. It's going to be just a tool to help you to work a little bit harder.
Yeah. I think it's important too that, we address it, that a lot of the advertisement for testosterone, since it's become a big thing, has been geared towards no energy, low libido. You must have low testosterone. Come and get your injections,
Yeah.
It's everywhere, billboards and commercials, and everybody's got a testosterone booster supplement and all this other stuff. And they make it so much about that, because it's being sold, and people don't understand that, you're being sold in a way. It's a great drug, and I'm glad we're able to use it. I use it every day. I'm an everyday injector myself, but it's you get to a point where if you just think that it's going to be the testosterone that's going to change your mindset, it's not going to happen. I don't foresee that happen. You have to change the mindset, and if you're lacking in certain areas, it's kind of you got to lifestyle, nutrition, fitness. You got to get the low hanging fruit first. And then start addressing more of the pharmacology later on. It's that's kind of in the equation, but it's not the first thing you do. You don't add pharmacology to change the other things, because it very seldom works.
And that's why Josh and I wanted to start this, because, we had talked, just like you and I had talked, Dom, before patient stuff, Josh, we need to start a podcast, because so many people, due to the advertising and everything, are just thinking that, you need to hop straight to either TRT or even more steroids. And that's another huge issue with the advertising, is they've always got the guys who are on steroids, not TRT, advertising TRT and saying they're on TRT. And I'm you do realize TRT is testosterone replacing to a normal physiologic level, therapy. It's not putting you into superhuman levels. And so for a guy who has low hypogonadal symptoms, he has low testosterone, and we replace it back to where it should be, that's going to be game changing. It's going to be, amazing. But if you take a guy who has normal levels and you make normal is just a little bit higher normal, probably not going to feel a damn thing. And now you've just committed to a life of injecting and wasting money. That sucks. But yeah, it's the advertising, man. And that's that's where the evidence guys hate this stuff too, is because it's you throw it enough nondescript kind of symptoms out there. Have you ever been tired? have you ever not been motivated? Like, you need my product. And it's like, everybody has gone through that, that's what I tell people too. Like, dude, your testosterone's fine. Your insulin's sky high. Your LDL is crazy. I know you're eating like shit. You're pre-diabetic. These are the things, but people are like, no, I'm convinced it's at 599 testosterone. I heard 600 is what you need. No, bro, it's because you have a 6 A1C and you're pre-diabetic and you haven't worked out for the past 3 years. You're sitting inside, you're not getting any sunlight. You don't have good like relationships, all this kind of stuff is it. It's not the testosterone.
Yeah.
When you've developed those habits of being the person who is not committed to their health, like you were saying, you live into kind of becoming the habits that you live out on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like for so many people that we see sometimes, I'm like, if I could just get you to commit to anything for 3 months, those small little wins that you start to accrue on a day-to-day basis, that would make you feel better than any amount of testosterone probably that I could give you, right? And a lot of people I don't think have ever even experienced what that's like just to commit to something. Just as simple as, getting their diet a little more in check, and like how empowering that can be. And that's definitely lost nowadays.
Well, I think that's where, like, for those guys, something like increasing their testosterone can be beneficial, because it becomes like this snowball effect, this downward vicious cycle where your lifestyle has, increased your insulin, your inflammation, et cetera, your body fat. And then that has lowered your testosterone. And now your drive to do anything for that has completely gone. And now you're just getting even unhealthier and your testosterone's going even lower. So it spirals out of control. And unfortunately, a lot of people need that boost in the testosterone. That's what we can do. And I understand that. I'm always sympathetic to that. I'm like, in a perfect world, we would just get you to change your diet and start exercising everything right now. I understand that you feel like you can barely even get out of bed right now. So telling you to start working out every single day is a huge ask. And so maybe we can give you a little bit of fuel, but you need to understand that it's simply the fuel. It's simply a tool, and it's not going to do the work for you. It's just going to help you to do the work and recover a little bit better and put in the work. Because if you continue your same lifestyle and you stay in bed, you keep playing video games, you keep watching porn all day, you keep eating junk food, nothing's going to change. You're just going to have higher testosterone and do all the same shit.
Yeah. I feel like, a person's confidence, I think, will affect his testosterone as well.
Yeah.
If you take a low position in life, for instance, or if you're maybe in a building stage, you don't have that good of a job, you don't feel good about yourself, you're not doing anything that you want to do, you're not exercising, you're not happy with what you see, when you look in the mirror, you're not happy to, go by the swimming pool, you don't feel confident with women, all that stuff's going to affect your hormones negatively as well. And I always think the starting point to changing that is, number one, don't let yourself down, stick to your commitments, start working out. Start building muscle, because I think no matter what, if you start doing that consistently, you start building muscle, you'll start building confidence. And when you stop lying to yourself, like you stop letting yourself down by showing up, that builds confidence. And then when you start getting more confident, you might be like, hey, I'm better than this job. I could do a little more than this. And I actually like working out. Maybe I'll be a trainer. And then you start training people, and then all of a sudden you're around a bunch of beautiful women that like hanging out with you, and then your confidence builds up a little more. And it's like it could cascade into other things, but it's like taking the first step to learning to build confidence in yourself. But if, like you said, if you're sitting around the house feeling sorry for yourself, watching porn, depleting everything that drives you, and man, I can't imagine someone having high testosterone in those circumstances.
No. When all of our stories are very similar in that sense, and that it was just, hey, one day we decided I'm going to start doing this. It wasn't perfect, like you were saying, Dom, from 20 to 25. I didn't nail it every day, but I just started going with it, and that cascaded into obviously where we're at today. It took us all in different paths and somewhat similar, but it all just starts with day one. And Adam mentioned it earlier, like, people look at us sometimes and think, oh, I could never be like that. It's like, well, I'm really not that different from you. I just chose to make that choice 10, 15 years ago, just like you chose to not make that choice. And that's compounded for 10 to 15 years, just in the opposite effect.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, the 1% or even a fraction of a percent every single day adds up. It's those marginal gains. It also goes the other way. Back when I had a YouTube channel previously, I made that where I like started out on the floor with a little pile of dirt, and I was like, you see these crumbs? Like the other day I spilled something on my floor and I didn't pick it up. And then the next day I didn't pick it up. And it's, my kitchen floor looks messy now because every single day I kept putting it off. And so every day that you fuck up a little bit, you get worse and worse and worse and worse. And that compounds, you get this compounding interest of fucking up and messing up your life. And it can go the other way too. And it can go both. And you have to keep doing it. Like I love the saying, like, pay the man, like just because you did something before, Dom, just because you worked out and you were a badass and, when you were 25, if you want to continue doing that now, you got to keep working. Like, who cares what you were when you were 25, you got to keep showing up every single day. You get the rent's due every day.
There was a lot of badasses when I was a teenager that I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm still going. Some of those guys are in the grave now. And, it's like, no, I'm still going, man. I'm still going. I'm still working like that. And
I told a patient, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention something similar to what you're saying is that I think when we tell ourselves something, when we make a commitment to ourselves and we don't follow through with it, we let ourselves down in the same way that if I did not show up to this podcast today, I would have let you down. If I said I was going to be here and I didn't show up, and then an hour later, I'm saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. My wife said," and you'd be like, "Okay, cool. Maybe his wife did that." And then you invite me next week, and then I don't show up again next week. I'd be like, "I don't know, Josh. I don't know what's wrong with this dude." And you guys start to lose trust, and maybe you invite me back one more time. But that one more time, if I don't show up again, like it's already lost. You're just not going to trust me anymore. But we do the same to ourselves because that's our nature. If you lie to yourself, you can't get away with it. You know it. You can't make an excuse to yourself. You can, but if I'm going to start on Monday, and you don't start on Monday, you let yourself down. Just the same way that you wouldn't trust me anymore, you stop trusting yourself. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They just stop trusting themselves.
It's
they
so
stop
true.
Trying.
100%.
You're firing me up this afternoon, Dom.
They don't even want to try anymore.
Getting chills over here. It was literally the same conversation Victoria and I had earlier. I was talking to her about, there was a time in my life when I knew that I needed to make a change. I almost got overtly cocky and probably was like a little bit like a douchebag. Like the only music I listened to was like hype music, like about being a badass. And I just crushed it in every single thing that I did. And I had overt confidence, almost cocky like confidence, because I had to take that on because I knew I was coming from nothing. And I just had to take on this personality of like, I'm going to fucking crush everything. And I'm amazing. I'm a warrior and I will always succeed. And I'm, an animal. And even though I wasn't, I just tell myself that every day. The music I listened to, the podcast I listened to, everything was motivating. And I excelled. I went from having F's in college to doing all those classes over and getting an A in every single class that I ever took in undergrad, because I had that confidence. I had to show up for myself every single day. And I convinced myself, I lied to myself that I was amazing. And just like you're talking about, if you lie to yourself enough times, you let yourself down. But you can also you can trick yourself the other way too. And you can tell yourself you're better than you are. And eventually you end up being that person. You told yourself that enough, you become this person.
We lie to ourselves all the time anyway. Yeah. We're always lying to ourselves, whether we say we're not good enough, or we are good enough. We're lying to ourselves because there's no evidence either way. It's like people just are so comfortable lying negatively about themselves, rather than saying, hey, look, I'm going to crush everything. I'm a beast. I'm Superman. I'm literally Clark Kent. No one knows. I'm Superman under all this. No one knows. Like, it's like when you feel like that and you treat yourself like that, you can convince yourself to kind of act like that, and there's a great book that I read years ago, and you guys might be familiar with it. It's called As a Man Thinketh. By James Allen. It's such a small read, but man, it's a life changer, man. And it's just, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So whatever it is you want to think about yourself, if at first you don't have the confidence to lie to yourself, think things that empower you, not disempower you. It's very important to do that, because we can easily come up with reasons. Oh, I'm a failure. I never follow through. My mom is mad at me and my dad doesn't like me. And you could think all this stuff, but if you create thoughts in your head that empower you, I am Superman, I am a beast, I am this, I'm going to crush it. And man, you start to do that and it just changes your whole world. It
does.
Amazing.
I mean, we talk about manifesting, all three of us have said, and I've Victoria always tells me I manifest things, or she tells me that it's because I have such a positive outlook on everything and I'm never fearful and I'm always just positive internally. And I think there's you can actually look at it from a scientific standpoint too, like in social psychology. like self-fulfilling prophecy is a real thing, because if you believe something enough, it doesn't necessarily mean, the universe or whatever, you can believe that too, but there's actual like observable science there that if you believe something hard enough, or you set your sights on that, you start to subconsciously make little changes in your life. You start telling yourself like, I'm super successful, I'm going to have all this money and stuff. You subconsciously make decisions. You start waking up a little bit earlier. You start drinking more water. You start eating a little better. You start working a little bit harder than everybody else self-consciously. And then someday you go, oh, I manifested these millions of dollars, and maybe you did, but I think that it's because you told yourself and you stayed positive and you made subconsciously, you told yourself enough that you made all these little changes that, led to a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It wasn't standing in the mirror chanting it every day.
That's
it was
true.
actually taking actionable steps. There's a huge difference there. And I know we've talked about the manifestation thing a lot, but yeah, I think it's super, super powerful. And again, it just builds confidence over time, because you get 5 years down the road and can look back and be like, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, sure, none of us accomplish anything on our own. But had I not had that idea or that drive to go after that 5, 10 years ago, and here I am now accomplishing that, I would never be here.
Yeah.
It's magnetism. Our
Yeah.
brain, our thoughts are magnets. So whatever it is we think and focus on, especially emotionally, when we focus on it emotionally, we draw that into our life like a magnet, and it knows no boundaries. It doesn't care if it's positive or negative. It'll draw that. You're an unlucky person. You think that, you'll draw the worst of the luck. And it's just that positive mindset that becomes magnetic to draw those opportunities into your life and create new situations, and then building confidence and knowing that you have the capability of doing it.
Exactly. And then go out and act on it. It's like you said, Josh, not just, I hate this generation too, because they're really big into this stuff like manifestation and everything, but they don't understand what that actually means. What they think is that you can write yourself or read affirmations or chant in the mirror, like I'm special, but no, you have to do the work too. Like I like that, like Alex Hormozy talks about, like do so much work for a long enough period of time that it would be unreasonable that you want to be successful. Like if you show up to the gym day after day after day for 15 years, it's literally going to be unreasonable for you to not have, changed your physique. And if you do that for long enough in anything that you do, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. And I like that you say the I'm special thing, because in reality, I think it's just the opposite, is having enough humility to realize none of us really are anything special at the end of the day. So it's all going to be about the work that I put in for 99% of us. So, hanging your hat on that I'm essentially going to do so much that in whatever avenue it is, I'm trying to be successful. It's undeniable. Someday along the way, someone's going to recognize that and be like, holy shit, this guy has been grinding for years, and there's no one else can challenge it at that point.
Exactly. And then how I hate too that people have developed this whole thought about like, America, like the 1%, we're never going to be like that. Well, what if you were? Like, what if you did make that? And how fucking awesome would you feel if you knew that you came from nothing and got to the level of the Kardashians who just had things handed to them? Like everybody talks about like, oh, if you're not born into it these days, the American dream doesn't exist. Prove them wrong then. That's my plan to do. I think I've proved that wrong. The American dream can definitely, like we talked about in that one podcast, I went from literally being homeless on the street to that mom that was homeless on the street with me, then abandoned me. And yeah, I didn't just have to start there. I had other things help me, but I didn't have anybody pay for my college. I didn't have any, and I made it. So fuck it. The American dream does exist because I put the work in. The American dream never said that everybody's going to wake up rich. The American dream said that if you work your ass off and you make smart decisions, like you can excel. So yeah, I mean, if you just work your ass off at McDonald's forever and you never make the smart decisions to take the managerial position and then take the franchise opportunity and then buy the next franchise, yeah, you're not going to live up to the American dream. There has to be some intelligence there too, obviously. It's not just hard work. Sure, I get that. There's other things in there, but I think that it does exist.
That's the great thing about our country too, is that it does still exist. It does still exist if you just apply yourself. And I think we live in a time now where if you are ambitious, if you do have that drive and that fire in you, you probably have more opportunity now because there's probably less competition.
Yeah.
You get that good foundation, and anybody, any color, any creed, any background, anybody has the opportunity. It's just really a willingness and a knowing that you're capable of doing it. And, you know, society will want to make you think that because you're X, Y, and Z, you can't do this, or that there's some boogeyman in the closet holding you back, you know, and that boogeyman in the closet, the only boogeyman in the closet holding you back is you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like all I see all the time, you know, my generation talking about, well, when my parents got married, you know, they bought their first house for $40,000 and my dad only made $50,000 a year. And now houses are 700,000 and I only make 100, you know, and I'm like, cool. That sounds like an awesome challenge to me. How much cooler would it be than when my parents bought their house if I buy my first house? You know, just look at it different.
Yeah.
Change your view about things. Like, you're not going to change that. Inflation sucks. Everything sucks, you know, but who cares? Like, make it a challenge. It's cooler to me now. If I buy my house, the only thing that that statement tells me is that it's more of an achievement when I buy my house than when my dad bought his house.
Yeah.
You know?
And on that same note, I look at it too, that nowadays there's so many more avenues than probably my parents or their generations had to even be successful. Sure, things may be more expensive, but I probably have far more opportunities out there to make that next step up in income or whatever it may be. So, you know, there's both sides of the coin there too.
Mm-hmm. And then the mentality, maintaining flexibility through these changing times. A lot of times they're like, well, my industry is closing up, and it's like, you gotta look what we're doing now. Like, we're just sitting here and we're able to communicate with each other, have a good time hanging out with each other through Zoom, you know, and this is going to be aired, and, you know, some people are going to see this, and it's like, there's new opportunities always coming out where there's, you know, change, but remaining flexible through the times, you know, that there's always going to be new good opportunities. And right now it sounds like, I haven't found my millions yet, but it sounds like there's a lot of great ways to make it now.
Well, who cares? You tell yourself you're a millionaire anyways. You're good.
Yeah.
I'm a millionaire who just doesn't have millions.
I'm as rich as can be.
I mean, it's not all about the money too. Money's not success. And I know everybody talks that, and that's cliche, but it's definitely true. I mean, Dominic, when I talk to you, I feel like you're rich. You know, you've got, I don't know how many kids you have, too many.
Yeah. Call me Abraham. Abraham's my nickname.
You have all kinds of kids. You got a beautiful wife. You're super happy. Like, you've got self-fulfillment, which is probably, I think your buddy that was the SEAL washing himself in the hangar, like, he probably had a lot of self-development and was better off than a lot of guys who have millions, you know, just because the self-development is huge. Like, there's a lot of people who might have money, but they haven't figured out themselves and they don't understand that. And to me, that's unsuccessful.
Yeah. That guy is, you know, he lives very modestly, and he's been one of my greatest mentors and teachers. And the things he says just kind of like sticks on you, and it just manifests. And talk about manifestation, it grows over the years. It's like, man, I remember him telling me that 15 years ago. And it's like, it just grows, and the words, you know, hold power. And he's just, it's nothing, you know, he doesn't even want anybody to know his name.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, dude, people got to know you, man. You're like the modern Bruce Lee. And he's like, no one ever, you know.
It's awesome.
You know?
And how awesome that you get to pass that along to patients at Marek too, Dom. I mean, I think that's probably something we didn't even have touched on yet about how valuable it is that obviously we're getting to help people along with anything treatment wise that they need, but just the nuggets of wisdom and knowledge that they're getting from working with somebody like you. I mean, it's very evident talking to you for 5 minutes, how hard you work, you know, all the things that you're sharing with us. It just kind of like bleeds through you. So, I mean, who knows how many people's lives you're changing just from the relationship that you get to gain with them through what we do at Marek.
Yeah, thank you so much,
it's
man.
Pretty
but
true.
I'll tell you, it's like we feed off each other, right? There have been so many people that have just affected my life in so many positive ways, and it's like, man, you just want to be able to give that same thing back. Yeah. You know, it's about servicing, and we're all in the service industry. You know, it's how many people can we serve, and it's like when somebody makes such a difference, it's nothing about me. You know, I owe everything to God, but it's like, you know, when you got to give back to your fellow man, and like all these gems that have been given to you, it's like you can't hold them. Like, oh man. It's like hot potatoes. Hey, man, you got to have some of this. You know?
And we meet a lot of cool people too. Like, there's been a lot of guys who have changed me. I just had an awesome dude yesterday who's my favorite. He's like 78 years old. He's the coolest dude. Man, I was texting Victoria, like, he's my favorite. And she's like, he sounds cute and you do too. Like, she could hear it in my voice how happy I was just to meet with this guy. He's awesome. You know, he's one who was like, he actually he was, 78 or whatever. So his testosterone is obviously crashed, but he still wants to live that life. He's recovering from a stroke. He needed it, and he feels so good now. He's like, my physical therapy is going awesome. I'm balancing well. I got my motivation back. I've always been so motivated and driven, and I didn't want to lose that. And the stroke made me lose it. It was just so cool to talk to him. And then I've had other people who have just like one guy in particular, it was like that. I think I told you, Dom, that day, it was the craziest thing where this poor man, he was like a little bit older than me, and his son was hit by a car, I think, and then was in a vegetative state for like 5 years or something like that. And they basically had the son in the living room. They had hospice there, and he nursed him for 5 years, and that was his whole life. So this guy, the dad, got out of shape, obviously, because his whole life was just, feeding, wiping, medicating his son for 5 years. His son finally passed, and he told himself, like, this is a time for me. I let myself get out of shape. I need to be here now for my wife and my other kids and myself. And so I want to get fit and healthy. First thing he did was sign up with Marek and get labs. He also decided to, just on a whim, because he heard on a podcast like this, that maybe you should give a stool sample and get your colon checked and look for colon cancer, and found out that he had colon cancer, like a pretty severe amount of colon cancer himself. And I was like, that just fucking wrecked me. I almost wanted to start crying when he was talking to me, but it like changed me in such a profound way, because, we take for granted all the amazing things we have every day, and how freaking fragile life is. It could all be taken from you in an instant. And so every day I feel grateful. Every day when I wake up next to Victoria, I'm so grateful that she's there. I have another human to experience life with. I don't have kids, but I've got my dog, and I freaking love the shit out of that little critter. I'm just like so happy every day to see him. I'm just like, life is amazing. And I try to love every second of it. And I don't, early on in the podcast, you talked about like, a guy pulls out in front of you and can ruin your day. I try to remember shit like that. Like, man, things could be so much worse. Am I really going to let the next 5 hours of my day be bad because some dude flipped me off? And another little trick I've taught myself is, guys have pulled out in front of me before. I've been mad about this before, and I can't remember any of those instances anymore. I'm going to get over this. Let's just do it now, because eventually I'm going to forget about this. If Victoria pisses me off, I'm like, I've been mad at her before, and it's past. I can't remember any time. So it was obviously useless. Let's just forget about it and go on about enjoying life, Yeah,
it's kind of I was thinking today at the gym too, there's like 4 pillars, right? There's spiritual development, I think, is incredibly important. And that'll get you through those times that you just talked about with that guy, because it's how unfair life can be to some people. And you can never tell how it's going to happen, who it's going to happen. If you don't have any spiritual connection or understanding or any spiritual development, man, that table's going to fall over, right? And then there's physical development, and this go into your training and your nutrition and learning how to take care of yourself physically. And then personal development, and we're always trying to be better at whatever it is, our craft, and just learning how to have better relationships with people, how to be a better father, how to be a better boyfriend, how to be a better girlfriend, and just learning how to, just developing ourselves as people, and then our relationship development. And I think these 4 pillars here would make us solid, and kind of unbreakable in a way, and if we're missing any of these 4 pillars, it's like a table without a leg. Obviously, if there's a couple missing, that table is not going to have any integrity. If it's missing one leg, it's going to lack integrity, and it's just based off of those 4 things. But, we never know what's going to happen in life. And right now, all of us here, I think we're all pretty blessed, to have what we have. But, that you could very well turn into what that guy has. And if we don't have that spiritual connection, that spiritual development, it could break a man. And without, as I mentioned earlier, is that belief and faith and hope, what all these fundamental principles as us as human beings, when we lose that, what more is, we're more than just animals, we have a connection. But I think those 4 pillars are what makes us solid.
Yeah. And I think the spiritual pillar there too, Dom, to your point about the hope, and we lose I think, and we see it so much today, that connection with our fellow man and woman, because you almost you lose the ability to see yourself in other people too when stuff like that happens. And you just start kind of viewing everybody through this lens as the other from you, and not realizing that, hey, that could have easily been me flipping someone off or acting that way because I have no idea what's going on in the background. And it's just sad to see nowadays, because I feel like we all just kind of move, and not us, in this chat per se, but so many people just kind of interact with others as they are just other, and not realizing that, hey, that could be your brother, your sister, anyone else in your life too. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we're all connected.
Yeah.
We're all the same. We're all the same. We all want and need the same things, man.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that all the time, man. There's so many humans that live who have, I don't know. I trip out on philosophy and stuff like that. Just this morning at breakfast, I just looked at a random guy and I'm like, man, he's just got his whole universe that I have no idea about. He goes off and has a family and a job, and it's just wild that every single little human is their own little micro universe. We're all together, and it's crazy. I could trip out on that stuff for hours.
Yeah.
But we all
and
are
even
all connected.
the people you have relation. I mean, I even think about, like, with my wife sometimes, like, she had a whole life before I met her, and like there's things that will occur in our relationship, I'm sure, that are her acting a certain way as a result of things that I have no idea about, just like everybody else that we interact with. There's so many experiences that I can't even begin to imagine because I haven't lived their life.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Good stuff, guys.
Should we cut it off?
Encourage me today.
I know. That's good. We're probably going to go over. We should probably stop here pretty soon and let the people get a break. It's been some heavy shit.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Well, I got my boys got a belt test today for their karate jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
So I'm gonna
go. What color are they?
In karate, they're going to be orange belts.
What is that, like third?
That's third, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So they do
awesome.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then there's like a blend of karate, judo, and jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome. How old are they, Dom?
So I have a 7-year-old, I have 2 6-year-olds, and I have a 4-year-old.
Man, that's awesome.
He's got a 0-year-old too.
And I got another one coming. Those are 4 boys. I got another girl coming.
Congratulations, brother. Man, seriously, I mean, they're lucky to have somebody like you. I mean, to have those values instilled nowadays, like you're making sure that the world doesn't fall to hell in the handbag by providing them with all that.
We hope so, man. You don't know till they grow up. When they grow up, you'll find out everything what it takes. Then you find out everything you did wrong.
That's true.
We had that like this.
We had that talk already on this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. I will end it here, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Great seeing you guys. Have a great day.